If you're a B2B company considering hiring a cold email marketing agency, you're probably asking yourself the same questions as every other decision maker. Am I actually going to get an ROI on this, or am I just going to waste 3 to 5K every month? Maybe you're skeptical, maybe you've been burnt by agencies before, and it's completely understandable. Now, here's the truth. Sometimes cold email marketing can work like a treat and you can book 20 to 30 qualified meetings a month. Sometimes it can be a complete waste of time because the fundamentals just don't support it. So by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which camp you're in and have a better understanding if this is going to be a viable channel for your business. All right, so let's jump in and have a look at some of the ROI maths, or math for my US audience. And really from the numbers here, there's actually 3 variables in this equation that are going to have the biggest impact on your success and will be the biggest indicator as to the viability of cold email as a channel for your specific business. And really only one of them is in the control of the agency. And that's going to be the amount of qualified meetings booked, and then it's going to be how many of those meetings are closed. And then the third variable is going to be the value of the sale. What's the annual contract value? Generally, it's good to think of a new signing in terms of how much you will make from them in a year rather than a month. You should have a good understanding of those figures. If you're a service, then you should know the average lifetime value of your client. When it comes to agency cost per month, I've actually done a separate video on this, going through what you should expect to pay for different price brackets and the things to look out for. But generally, like a good solid B2B agency, which is going to be kind of the sweet spot, mid-tier for most B2B companies, you're probably going to be paying between 3 to 6K a month. So in this example, we'll go with 4, and we're going to assume in that example, you're sending out 10,000 emails a month. Okay, it could be much more. That's going to depend on each agency and your specific use case. And we're going to assume generally, okay, so if you're trying to work out exactly how many meetings you can book, you can use a rough metric of between 0.2 to 0.5% of emails sent out actually end up booking a meeting. So again, cold email is a volume gain. Now, if you have a really sexy product and if you're way more established, that's going to be higher. It can be as high as 1%. But generally, to be more on the conservative side, you can say 0.2% of the emails that you send actually end up booking meetings. Okay, now that is a little bit conservative, but let's roll with that. And then not all of those people are going to show to the meeting. Just like any lead generation, you not only need to get the hands up, you need to actually make sure they're attending the meeting. So there will be drop off there. And generally, like a usual range is between 70-80%. If it's lower than that, you've got a problem. And then sales, again, depending on how savage your sales team is, but I think between 15 to 25% is a good range. So in this example, we can assume 20%. And let's say your annual contract value is 5,000. So in this instance, you generate 15K and you've got a 3.75 ROI. So clearly that's going to be worth it. And again, if any of these numbers get better, that's only going to get better. But if any of these numbers get lower, that's when you have a problem. So, typically where you're going to run into issues, if your team is not great at closing, again, your ROI goes down. And if you combine that with a low annual contract value, then you're going even lower. And let's say the agency is charging you 6,000 a month, then again, you might be in shady territory. So that's just to give you a pre-frame of the ROI maths. And now I'm just going to jump in and give you some scenarios so you can actually figure out for yourself, is hiring a cold email marketing agency actually worth it? So the first scenario is where your ACV, okay, your annual contract value is 5K plus and your sales team can close. Okay, this is really the sweet spot. If you have an average deal size of 5K or more, your sales team closes at 15% or more of qualified meetings. The math works really well, and each deal closes 1 to 2 months of your agency cost. So you break even pretty fast, and then you can build profit from there. For example, let's say a 10K, 20% close rate, 35 meetings a month, 7 close, that's 70K in revenue from 1 month from cold email marketing. These numbers are realistic, guys. This does happen. You're paying 5K a month and you're crushing it at 14-1 ROI. So great example. If your business meets those criteria, you got a high ACV, you're confident closers, cold email can be a really good channel for you. Scenario 2, you have a proven product, but your pipeline is empty. So you've got something with a proven track record that sells. Maybe you have a brand and a reputation. You've got a solid close rate, but your sales team just doesn't have enough inbound leads to work with, and you need to fill the top of your funnel. So in that instance, you can start generating qualified meetings really within, it's more like 45 to 60 days. You can start having high quality qualified meetings on your sales team's calendar. So if you just need the volume and you need the meetings now or as soon as possible, then cold email could be a good channel for you. And scenario 3, you're just a little bit tired of hiring SDRs who are responsible for their own lead gen, and it just doesn't really scale. Okay, so most B2B companies will hire their first SDR, quickly hit a wall because one SDR can only handle so many outreach activities per day. And then scaling means you got to hire a second and then a third, and each hire becomes with the associated onboarding time, management overhead, base salary, and so it just doesn't scale very well. Whereas hiring an agency just scales better because you're paying a flat monthly fee for your infrastructure, your tools, and there's a lot less proportional cost increase. Now, if you do want to dramatically increase the volume of emails that you send, they probably might hit a higher tier, but it will be way less proportionally than continue to hire SDRs. So that's another use case that could mean that cold email is worth your while. Scenario 4, you're entering a new market, testing new positioning, and you just want some data to actually underpin some of your assumptions. So that could be a new audience, you're expanding geographically, you just want proof of concept. Cold email, great way to do that instead of hiring someone full time because you're still kind of validating and don't want to make that investment. So cold email is a great way to quickly test your hypothesis, your ICPs, your ideal personas, and a whole bunch of other assumptions that might sit behind your business plan. So you can quickly run campaigns, get the data back fairly quickly, especially if you already have domains and everything set up, and then you can either decide to scale or pivot. And then scenario 5, you're losing deals to competitors and need more at-bats. You feel confident, but if they're only getting 10 at-bats a month and they need 20 to 30 at-bats to close the deals, then you can fill that gap with cold email. And really, it's the only B2B lead generation channel that can produce 15, 20, 30 plus qualified meetings a month at that price point. So main takeaway here, guys, is these 5 scenarios have something in common. The fundamentals are already there. You have a good product, you can close, but you need volume. Cold email will help you amplify what's working. And I'm going to quickly then go to the flip side of that and go through 4 scenarios where it's not worth it and you guys should just save your money and maybe work on your organic or inbound before you make that kind of investment. So again, as discussed, if your ACV is under 3K, if your average deal is 2,500 and a good agency costs you 3,500, you need to close 1.4 deals a month just to break even. So that means you need roughly 7 to 10 qualified meetings a month and at a 20% close rate just to break even. And that's not so easy. So margins could be thin if that's the case. It's not necessarily going to be that predictable revenue engine and generator that it could be if you had a higher ACV and a better sales team. And so really, you need to be really confident of your sales team, or you need to find a way to drive the LTV of your customers up so that you're at the ideally 3K plus range, meaning that cold email is going to be a safer bet. Scenario 2, your product isn't proven yet, you're a brand new startup, and you think maybe cold email is great for you, and maybe it does get you meetings, but you're just not closing any of those meetings because you haven't fully got product market fit. Cold email will accelerate that revelation for you, so you'll understand quicker, that your product isn't solving the problems that you thought it does, and you'll book meetings. Prospects will say no, and then you'll blame the agency for bad leads. The agency will blame your sales team for not closing. Everyone gets mad. So really, make sure you get product market fit first. You feel confident in your product before you invest in cold email. And scenario 3 over here, your sales team has a close rate